So today on the podcast, I have Shamina Taylor. She is the author of Unlocking the Quantum Woman. And today we go through all those limiting beliefs that are keeping you from living your best life. It's an episode you don't want to miss. All right, Shamina Taylor is with us today. So thank you, Shamina, for joining us. I'm super excited to share your story and everything with our audience. You have a lot of tidbits to help us out. So thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
Yes, my pleasure. Let's get into it. In chapter 1 of your book, Unlocking the Quantum Woman, you describe a powerful moment when you write, "When I left the yoga studio that day, I knew something needed to change." Can you take us through what that moment of awakening felt like? And how do you help other clients recognize their own wake-up calls?
So it's that aha moment when you can't unsee what you just saw, and you can't go back to the way things were before. And that's basically what happened for me. I had done yoga probably like 3 times at this point, and I just finished a bodybuilding competition because I was heavily into figure competitions, and because all I could change was the outside, not the inside at the time. And a friend of mine also joined me in the competition, and she was getting featured on TV, and I wanted to be on TV. So I go into the studio dressed in my best Lululemon, getting ready to be the star of the B-roll for the TV. And little did I know that this was going to be the most monumental, one of the most monumental moments of my life. I was on this yoga mat, and I'm a high achiever, high performer, and I don't lose. So I was going to beat everybody at yoga that day, because that's what you do when you're competitive. You want to win.
That's what you do in yoga. We beat people in yoga. Yes, we do.
I put my phone down right beside me, and because that's what you do too. You bring your phone into yoga. You don't do any of these things, by the way. And as we're going through, we're 15 minutes in, and I'd done probably, 100 dog downs. She was just really showing off, in my opinion. And I was getting angry with the yoga instructor, which was one of my best friends. So anyway, we're in this, and she says, put your leg one way, leg this way, put your leg that way. And I figured, I could do this. This is just yoga. I could figure it out. But little did I know that these moves that she was putting us into were going to be like life-changing for me. As I put one leg one way, the other leg the other way, I felt like this pain come over me. And it was pain I'd never felt before. It was excruciating. And I was like, I'm going to push through, because no pain, no gain. So as I'm pushing through, pushing through, all of a sudden, like this physical pain, it just came over my body, and I just started crying. And it just turned into a pain I'd never experienced before. And then that pain turned into like emotional pain. Like for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, I get to release something, like something just washed over me. And I, as she was talking, she's like, are you happy? I'm like, no, I'm not happy. Even though I had everything that you're supposed to check on the list of what you're supposed to have, all of the things, I still didn't have this one thing that I realized was missing from inside of me. And so we sat there, and I stayed in this position for 45 minutes, and had the ugliest cry of my life. There was snot everywhere, but I finally saw something that I didn't see before, and I realized something had to change in my life. I lifted my head up after that class, and everybody came to me, and I realized, okay, what's the next move? What do I do next? For all of you that have done yoga, it's called the frog pose, and all your emotions are held in your hips. And so when you are releasing, and decades of trauma, it was coming out in that moment, it was like, okay, I can't unsee this. And then that moment basically made me wake up. And I couldn't go back to the way life was before. Went home, and I spoke to my husband a couple of days later, and I asked him if he was happy. And of course he wasn't happy either. We were both in survival mode in the marriage. And a month later, through a therapist and whatnot, because I was walking on eggshells around him. I hated the way he ate carrots. Like, it was just not what you're supposed to do, and women can relate to that, where you're like, everything was irritating you. And this is a person that I chose to spend the rest of my life with and have kids with. And I was here. Like, how did I get here? And so then he moved out, and unfortunately he did not move home again, because it was best decision for us. And I ended up going on a very deep spiritual journey to figure out, how did I get myself to that point in my life? Like, how did it get so bad that you check all the boxes for success? You have all the things, the dream body, the dream life, the dream husband, and still something's missing. And so what went wrong? So that was 3.5 years later, I was celibate, and I went on a deep spiritual journey, and it brought me to a huge awakening, and it helped me create the book.
Yeah. I think we all have those moments, or if we haven't had it, read the book, because it will help you navigate it when it shows up, because I don't know how we get around it, to be honest with you. I had the same experience, manifested a different way, but same ahas.
everybody has that like awakening moment. It's just whether or not are you going to listen to it. I think they're like pounding me over the head at this moment. They're like, she better wake up now, you know?
Oh yeah, I know. I was in a near fatal car crash. It's like if you do not surrender, because you're not going to be able to outforce this car or outrun it or out like strength move it, you have to let go, and that's the only way you survive. And I just remember thinking like surrender is a weakness, not a strength. And that accident reminded me that no, 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 no. Surrender is a strength, and
Totally.
opportunity comes from those spaces. So, which in this chapter two, chapter one, you talk about everything is energy. Can you explain how someone might start becoming more aware of their own energy and the way it impacts our daily life?
So our thoughts are energetic, our emotions are energetic, the actions we take, everything that you're touching has an energy or frequency to it. And I believe that I spent majority of my life just going through the motions. I was a high achiever, so I was my trauma drove me. Like it was the the feeling of
Yes.
unworthiness drove me. But when I started recognizing that once I started to move unhealed trauma out of me, I was actually because energy cannot be created or destroyed. So I was holding on to emotions that weren't serving me. So when I started healing, I saw, oh, I can just release these things from the human matter that I'm at. And then I started creating a different type of frequency and energy. And if people realize, like for example, you walk in, you go to a party or you see someone walk in and you're like, you can feel that person like, ooh, what's going on with them? Or you can sense something's wrong. That's you sometimes empathically, but or an energetic way, feeling the vibration and frequency of what someone else is doing. And you get those intuitive hits. So all of those are like the energetics of it. And I truly believe that when we are in alignment with our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions, it is the highest frequency we could be in. And this is when like the magic happens in our life. Like David Hawkins, he came up with this scale of the consciousness. And if you think about where our emotions are, it will change our perspective on life. So if you are in sadness all the time, that's going to be a frequency that goes out or an energy that goes out. If you're happy, that's going to be a frequency that goes out. And if you know that your actions alone cannot create the result that you want, but your energy plus your actions will create the most magnificent result, you will show up differently every single day. Because I don't know if you've heard of be, do, have. You've got to be in the energy and be the person who you want to be, then go do the action to have the result that you want. And I had it backwards for years. I was have, do, and then be successful, right? If I have this, have the fancy car, have these accolades, then I can go out and show everybody, look how successful I am. And this is where I am, and then I'll be happy. And so our energy is everything. Like Neville Goddard talks about, feeling is the secret, right? That's the feeling is how we create a reality. And I realized that my emotions were so shut down. I was such an ice queen. I was locked down that I was not even tapping into the emotions that can help me create things faster.
Yeah. 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 Well, and you talk about this, you talk about the four keys to unlocking quantum power: desire, heal, align, receive. Like, tell us a little bit about these and why this order.
A lot of people think that goals are the way, and I did too, but goals is coming from your mind. What do I think I need to do? And most of that's driven by, I need validation, or I want to show the world, like, look how successful I am. But it's not like a soul centered thing. A desire for me is something that you cannot explain. Like, why did you desire to want to do that climb? Something in you said to you, like, I have this burning thing to do. It wasn't in my wheelhouse of desire, but for you, it's like, I have to do this. Maybe you've done it before. Maybe it was something that you came here to do in this lifetime, but you can't explain to somebody else, but you live it and you follow through with it. When you're disconnected to your soul self, you can't even acknowledge what your desires are. And sometimes people will get a desire to, let's say, be a multimillionaire. And then people say, well, why do you want to do that? Well, because I desire it. And people judge their desires instead of honoring them. So when you're more connected to your emotional state, your soul self, I feel like that desire has a stronger frequency to have an outcome come for you as opposed to just a goal. So in my past life, like before, not like past, like previous life before the yoga moment.
Yeah, pre-yoga, post-yoga.
Pre-yoga,
Yes,
right.
yoga.
I would have this, these goals. And every time I hit the goals, I still felt empty. I didn't feel this feeling of, oh, this feels good. Like I didn't get this. It would be a hit for a moment of dopamine, right? But then I'll be like, okay, what's next? Because I was trying to fill this empty hole inside of me that was still searching for who I was and getting connected to my truest self, because I was in such survival mode. I was disconnected from my human and my spiritual self weren't connected. And so if you think about desire, it has to come from a place from your soul. Now heal, well, a lot of the times, like I said, I couldn't connect to that desire because I had all of this past stuff that I had not worked through, and, some PTSD, trauma. And I'm telling you, like, you don't always have to go digging for it, right? But if you're looking around in your life and you're like, I don't like what I see, or I want to improve what I have around me, maybe I need to go visit. Because if you know that you're the one that's the denominator, then you have the power to go change the outcome in your life. So I realized that very quickly after I got over my victimness, that, hey, it's me. So let me go inside and figure out, what do I need to rewire in my thoughts or heal inside of me so that I can feel into or see a vision beyond what I was seeing right now that was capable for me. Because we create ceilings, or we have this protection mode. I don't want to be hurt again from this trauma, so I'm going to play safe, or I'm going to play under the radar, or I will never climb that mountain. But when you are like in this place, like, I can do anything, you've healed a part of you that you see beyond that. And so alignment for me is like, I don't even think about things anymore. My team it's really funny because, like, how do you feel about it? Like, they're like, what do you feel? Because I'm completely connected to my emotions in a way that I never have before. And when something feels right, I know it's going to be a winner. And because I trust my emotions now in a way I never have before, it is utmost alignment. Like, I don't go against it. Like, when people say, well, I think I got to do this thing because I just have to do it. I feel so obligated to do it. That's out of alignment. Or you're a people pleaser. You're putting people's needs before you. That's out of alignment. You're perfectionist. You're waiting too long to take action, because you're worried about what people think about you. Judgment, out of alignment. Examples, right? But when you get an idea and you're like, let's go for it, that's full alignment, because you're just completely connected to, what you're getting. Your God self, your higher self, whatever you connect with is telling you, hey, let's go for it. And then being able to receive, because I have had so many clients say, the man of my dreams is right in front of me, but I couldn't receive from him. Or I've had this opportunity right in front of me, but I couldn't receive. And I have many thoughts and beliefs of why women do not receive. But when a woman can receive, I believe that's when the fountain and the joys and everything that she's ever wanted in her life will show up for her. So when you have that capacity to do that, you overcome blocking your blessings.
Yeah. And what are common things that you see that prevent people from being able to receive?
A lot of women that I work with that are high performers and high achievers, they are very much in a protective state. I believe that a lot of them created this false sense of safety, which is like this false masculine energy when they were younger, or at some point in their life where they weren't taught their emotions. They weren't taught that it was safe to feel their emotions. Maybe they have a mother wound or a father wound or both, because I had it all. And so, the father wound could show up with, not having that protective security around you when you were growing up, a person that was there to defend you, to take care of you. And these are vital things when you're getting, from 0 to 20. This is what you need, to know that you're safe. And if you didn't have a mother that was connected to her emotions and she used you, for her emotional needs as opposed to providing a safe emotional space for you, then you're going to figure out really quickly, because it's survival, that I need to take care of myself. And so if you're in an environment that doesn't make you feel safe, and you don't have a nurturing mother to say, you know what, it's the breakdown moments. It's like when you're struggling and things aren't going great. Is there one parent there to be like, it's safe for you to feel all these emotions you're feeling? But the way majority of us were raised was like, stop crying, throw the binky in the mouth. Like, I'm going to give you something to cry about. What are you crying about? Why are you sad? Like, because they didn't understand from their sense of emotional intelligence that it was okay to feel, positive, negative emotions, whatever it is, all the array of emotions. So what happens to women is that they become the support systems for everybody else. Like, almost every woman in my world is the rock for her people, because everybody goes to her because she's conditioned herself to turn off her emotions and to just do. I could take care of it. That she goes into this masculine state. I can provide, I can fix, I can take care of everybody, as opposed to herself. So receiving help is so foreign to her. And it's also really vulnerable, and you feel weak asking for help because you're conditioned from a very young age to do everything yourself. Like, there's no moments where you can say, yes, I'm helpless. Like, mom, take care of me, or dad, take care of me, or whoever, because it could happen when you're, in your teen years, or you're, your 20s when you're in a relationship and you're doing everything. So she forgets that she gets to be honored. It was really hard concept for me to understand. And even accepting a compliment, I would deflect it. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Like just this old hair or this? I couldn't even accept someone holding the door open for me because I was the chick that would just carry, like when I did groceries, all 30 bags by myself because I had to prove to everybody that I could do it, and it was just really hard for me to say I need help. And because I didn't want to be needy. And that was something that I don't think a lot of strong women understand, that is actually the gateway to her success, the love that she wants, not emasculating the men around her, but still being a powerful woman.
And you do make an interesting distinction that I don't know if a lot of people think about it, from a masculine energy and a feminine energy. How does one learn to balance the flow and go in between those two energies? Because both are needed to survive.
Absolutely. I feel like was the turning point for me. And this was actually, truthfully, attracting a man who is confident, masculine, a provider. Like my ex-husband was a hunter and fisherman, and he was a country boy. So you can't get any more, and he was a provider. You can't get any more masculine than that. But then I also wanted a man who was emotionally mastered as well. And so I knew that in order for me to attract a man like that, I had to be emotionally mastered myself, but also learn that it's okay to need somebody. And then I also saw it with money, which is crazy because I saw that the more that I allowed my feminine to come through, the more wealth came to me. And I have a whole explanation on that. But what I would realize is if you feel like you're efforting too much, or you feel exhausted and you're doing it too much, and you feel resentful, or you don't feel like things are as easy or as flowy as they could be, and you're taking the world on your shoulders, then I would ask you to go in and check in. Like, are you allowing people in? Are you allowing people to come in to support you? Are you asking for help? Are you taking downtime? Because a lot of the women I work with, they're constant hustlers, because they don't know anything else. They will pack their schedules, which when you have an scheduled, it is kind of a trauma response because you just have to keep busy because you can't be still with your body. And so the first test, I'd be like, try and meditate. Cause I did that for a year. Meditated a year. I started 1 hour every day for 8 years. And I believe it totally changed my perspective of stillness and my life. And it healed me in a way that I can't even describe because I had so much trauma. My nervous system wasn't regulated. So when you're constantly doing and you're overdoing and you're overworking, that is like that masculine, it's not healthy for you. But being able to relax and trust your intuition, because every woman I work with is intuitive, but whether she trusts it or not is a whole different story. But learning to use your emotions to powerfully delegate. Like I always say, get into your feminine first, then go do the masculine actions, because the results will be like 10, 20 times more powerful than if you went and try to fix, an issue, like a feminine issue with a masculine doing, and it's to me, it's like, are you happy? Are you connecting to people? Do you feel like you can let your guard down? Because that to me is a superpower. Do you feel like you can take the mask off? Are you authentic? Can you speak your mind? Those things to me are a woman who's in her power. And when a woman's in her power, she's in her utmost, highest feminine, in my belief.
Oh, I agree 100%. When somebody's not used to being in their feminine, you said meditation, right? That helped you into that space. Well, what's other things that you've done to allow you to realize, like, okay, I need to connect with that feminine side and strengthen that because my masculine side's already developed?
So I would have her start really identifying her emotions. I always send all my clients to go get the emotional wheel on the internet. I don't provide one. I say, go find one that you identify with. And I want you to start saying, I feel instead of I think, because I want her to start really just connecting to what the emotions are. Because most of the women I work with, they know anger, they know how to laugh, but they're not really connected to like the empathy that's inside of them, because it's not a safe place to be in their emotions. Having an open heart, I can't tell you how many times I sat in meditation or worked with different shamans to open my heart, because I was like, okay, we got to get this thing opened. But when you've been through so much, hardship in your life, you it's not safe. It doesn't feel like my daughter's heart is wide open. Like I broke the generational trauma with her. She knows she can feel any emotion and it's safe, good, bad, whatever. And that's what I help women do, is because once you can start feeling safe in your emotions, like especially if something has gone sideways, that to me is a true testament of where you are. Because when things do go sideways, how do you manage it? Do you fall apart? Do you get stressed out? Or you're like, all right, this happened. I'm going to feel everything all the way through, and then we'll like she's allowed to feel her emotions, feel everything all the way through, and then I'm going to go take action to solve it. But I think what happens with most women is that they shut down, they don't feel anything, and they go right into like, let's fix this, as opposed to giving herself the opportunity to feel the sadness, feel the disappointment, and realize, all right, this is not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. And this is how we proceed. So that's the thing, is feeling the emotions. And the next thing is asking for help. Like I see women in their businesses and they're like a one-man team. I'm like, okay, so who else is there? You kind of need to get people in to, support you. And being supported is really hard for her because one, she's really good at everything. But two, it's like, having somebody be there that could leave is one of her biggest fears, because abandonment is a scary thing. So if I lean on you and I trust you to support me and then you leave, how am I going to handle it? So it's overcoming the belief that people can leave. And so I always say, do it in baby steps, bring people in little bit by little till you get to a place where you can literally say, all right, delegate and be like, okay, I know that you can support me.
Yeah. And understanding it's baby steps, right? Like when we take on something too big, then it's going to cause us to go backwards. So
absolutely, baby steps.
Little teeny tiny baby steps definitely help. In the book, you talk about one of your clients and you guys did a cord cutting exercise that helped transform her relationship with money. Can you explain more about how we energetically stay corded to old wounds and what the process of cutting the cords looks like?
So here's the thing. A lot of people will end a relationship, any type of relationship. I'm not talking to that person anymore. They're out of my life, but they'll still keep the energetic connection with that person daily. So they'll think about them. Maybe they stalk them online, or they're constantly replaying an event in their mind over and over again. Still, that person is affecting them, because I believe there's a part of that person who's still holding on to the story that hasn't rewired the story, released the story. So sometimes energetically you need to go in there and I did this many times with my father, because he was the one that caused a lot of abuse. Like in my life, that's where it was. And I feel like whatever you believe to be true is what the result would be. So it's like taking, a placebo. If you trust in the process, it will work for you. So if you are connected to somebody still that you feel like you would like to disconnect from them forever, then I would invite you to do a cord cutting that's in a safe environment for you, where you're energetically removing this person from your life. I can't tell you, I tried everything. And this is a lawyer, okay? I was doing like full moon burnings of things. I was writing it down. I'm like, I am done with this person. I need to move on. I want to have a clean slate. And I realized that everything that I did got me to where I am now. When you have no emotional response to something or a situation, you know that it's over, and you've literally let the cord, you've cut the cords with these people. But if you feel like you still have an emotional response, there's still a triggering part about the story. And sometimes there might be a little bit, but it depends on the level of it, because sometimes things don't always go away, but it's how you manage and respond to it, But if you still feel like it's eating up some of your time or your energy, then do something about it, because why spend the rest of your life still replaying that event when you've physically taken this person or the situation out of your life?
Yeah. And you also talk about the trigger journal, right? Like, which I think is a really cool tool. So can you talk to us about that helps with emotional mastery?
So the trigger journal is, I found that when I was very triggered person. Like, I mean, everything would trigger me, because I had literally all my unresolved stuff was right here. So it was like, all you had to do is just go like this. And I was like, I'd blow up. So when I started doing this work, I realized that I would feel this emotion towards something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels really bad. Like, why do I feel like this? I'd feel off out of alignment, and I'd feel upset. And sometimes I would get so upset, I'd want to tell the person off, right? Because whatever someone did. And I remember, sending my brother, because he's like my person, and I would text him and all the things about the person, like, do you know what they did? And then he goes, first thing he would say, did you send this to them? I said, no. He goes, okay, good. And then so that's what he always says. He goes, did you send, that's the first thing he asked me, did you send it to them? I'm like, oh, because then what would happen is I would wait an hour or two, and I would realize, okay, I'm not so triggered anymore. I could go back and reflect where I was. Instead of reacting, I could respond to the situation now from a different place. So what I started seeing was, okay, something was emotionally triggering me. It might not have even been the event that happened at the time, but it was like what the person was saying was triggering something in me. So I realized that some people, my father was one of them, are here as gifts sometimes that'll come in and they'll like show you here's some places that you're not actually emotionally mastered, and this is where you're handing your power over to people because you're getting triggered by them, and you're just literally saying, here you go, you're affecting me, and I no longer wanted to be a person that was handing my power over to people. So I'm like, I need to track down my triggers. So what I did was I started logging them in journal. I started taking notes every single time someone triggered me. I would write it down and I started seeing the patterns. Okay, I can see here. This triggered me. This triggered me when this happened. And then I started seeing the correlation. Okay, there's an underlying theme that's going on here. Then I was able to break the cycle or the pattern of that trigger and get to the root of it. Because to me, if you don't get to the root of it, like if you don't pull a weed from the root, it's still always going to keep festering, or, it's going to be there affecting you. And I like to not have things be affecting me and getting me off my game when I can be so exceptional that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah.
trigger journal, I absolutely like it is going to work wonders. And it might even be someone cut you off and then you got fired up, or someone didn't call you back. What happened? Just track it for a week. My women have been tracking it for months, sometimes years. They keep it because they're like, okay, I see a theme. And when you can be the person that has the tool that can now manage your emotions, you have a level of emotional mastery that you never did before. And you also elevate your power, but it also increases your bank account, because you're no longer being a victim to the things that are affecting you, because now you have control on how you want to solve the issue.
Yeah. And just confidence, right? Like when like, okay, now I know I can handle this, or now I know where this is coming from. And so it's easier to manage when you can see the correlation between the different pieces and navigate going forward. I do a thing where I have a failure journal, which is a little bit different than a trigger journal. But when I failed something, like I'll write it down in this journal and I'll let it sit for a little bit, because a lot of times failure is just a data point, but it's only a data point when you look back and you say like, oh, you know what? I thought I was going this direction. This failure caused me to go this direction, and look at the success I'm having. I no longer like am mad when failure shows up. I just know that's the way that my life shows me to pivot.
I love that, because I always say messy makes me millions now. Like that's so, if I take messy action, it's fine. Like I just say it's working, it's happening is like another mantra that I said to myself. So even if it didn't happen right now, no worry, collect data because it's going to happen. Like you just keep going. And it's kind of the same. I don't use failure because I always think my words have like energy, but I do know what you're saying in that. And failure. And if you think failure is a bad word, then it is. If it's not a bad word, it's not, you know what I mean? So it's whatever we assign.
Totally. It's whatever energy you assign the word. So for me, I was like, okay, we didn't summit the mountain because of different things. Now I'm going to look at that and why didn't we summit it and figure it out so we can go back stronger and make things happen.
Exactly.
So the concept of unbelieving old beliefs as a way to shift into alignment. Please share what this means and an example of how to use it.
So old beliefs is just a belief that you've been thinking over and over again and you think that are true. So I feel like as humans, and there's lots of quantum physics out there and different teachers to support this too. I can't name them all right now, but just because like when you have a past event, what happens to the human is they start changing the iteration of it. So something might have happened to you, and then in that moment you had that response. But if you don't resolve it, that becomes a belief then that you start tacking on beliefs that experiences that from that belief over and over again will happen. And then you start creating a new idea about what something is that's not even true. Do you know what I mean? You remember the past incorrectly. So your belief becomes more inflamed and not true is basically what it is, because I don't even know how else to say it, but you start believing this thing because it is supporting a moment in your life that didn't go the way you wanted. So it's like you ate, I don't know why I thought about this, but you ate green beans and you threw up one day, or green beans are going to kill me. But did you go back and try it again? Well, I had it in the salad once and I saw it there. I think I saw it. So you know what? Now I'm not going to eat potato salad either. Okay. And then, so what else? And then you start looking to where all these beliefs came back from, but is that true? And so it's like, you got to decide, do you want the belief to be true? I ask people, what's your biggest money belief? They'll say rich people are bad. I'm like, okay.
There's a problem.
So rich people are bad. Do you want to be rich people? Yes. So does that make you bad? No. So then why do you believe that? I don't know. My mom told me. So you see, it's so simple. I just say, be a person that challenges your own thoughts, your own beliefs, challenge your own beliefs, because I'm going to tell you right now, I want to say 80% of what you believe is not true. It's just because someone told you it, and it's not the truth. So I challenge everything that comes up. And every time I hear if I say, it's hard to lose weight. Is it hard to lose weight? Maybe now that you're 52, Shamina, but do you want to believe that? Well, no. So then stop saying that to yourself. So I'll sit there and give myself, the same thing that I would, if you were in front of me and I was talking to you, because if you can't challenge your own limiting beliefs, then who's going to? Then you just keep believing them. So question it. Do you believe you can be a millionaire? Yes. Well, why not? Forget the how. Just, you got to get into the belief. Whatever you want to come into your life, get that faith behind it, work that muscle, and it'll show up.
Yeah. Affirmations need action, right? Like the vision is like, here we go. We got started. Now we got to move towards that thing. We don't just think about it. I love this story in the book where you mentioned spending $912 on dinner. And it was a transformative experience in your relationship with money. How does letting go of control around spending help women step into their feminine energy and attract more abundance?
Well, I feel like one of the things that holds people back from enjoying their money is they feel like once they spend it, it goes away forever. And if you think about it this way, does it? Because it's always moving around. It's an energy, right? It's just, and it's a meaning that we assign to it. And I was like, the fear, whatever is holding my fear with money, I always go and embrace it. So if I'm afraid to spend, I'm going to make an example, like $50 on a bra or something like that, I'll go do it, because what's tying up my emotions there? Anything that's locking you into the shame or the scarcity of spending the money. And I'm not saying like you go buy something large, but you test yourself, right? Like I bought my G-Wagon. That was like $300,000, and that's a lot of cash to let out. But I started small with like a matcha tea every day. So I find out where the scarcity is and where the fear is, because that fear that's there is not actually about money. It's about something else. And so when you can identify it, you can then see, well, this is what's really holding me back from using money and also receiving money in a large amount of money too. A large amount. Because a lot of the times people stop the flow of the wealth to them because they're afraid, if I do have that money, I'm not going to be a good steward of it. I'll waste it. I'll spend it. I'll, blow it, because this is what they were told, growing up. It could get wasted. My mom told me, don't waste your money. Like when I started making a lot of money, she's like, put it away. Don't waste your money. I'm like, Mom, don't you ever tell me that again, because money can't be wasted. They're printing it right now. It's all over. It's everywhere. Like as long as I am open to receiving it and I'm doing the work to receive it, I'm going to open up the floodgates of more coming to me. But if I feel I can waste my money, guess what? It will be wasted. When I bought my G-Wagon, this guy from one of these places I used to hang out, he said, wow, that's such a waste of money. You're crazy. I said, to you, it's a waste of money. But every time I get in that car, I feel wealthy. And you know what? The cash came in like 10 times from that. It's like I had the money.
Attracts wealth, right?
It does.
Like attracts like. So you always have to think like, okay, what do I need to do to feel this, to attract this? And sometimes it's these physical items that remind us who we are. Like step into it, girl. Own it, own it, own it.
It is. And I don't feel there's a limit. I feel like people are will say to me, well, I want the nice experiences and I want to go on holidays. I don't really like Louis Vuitton or any of those things. I'm like, good for you. I go, I live in the and world. It's a both world for me. I get it all, honey. Like that dinner made me realize that I had been holding back on certain things in my life. Like I was being too careful because my parents would say that food was a waste. Like, you're just going to eat it and that's it. You're like, you shouldn't enjoy the fine dining. You shouldn't spend your money this way because there's nothing to show for it. But what I was doing was having an experience with my children that we still talk about today. It's actually, I think I hit 1 million or something. I can't remember what milestone we were celebrating at that point. But it was one of those things where we were like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to do something like this. And, by the time I hit the Uber Black guy picked us up, I had $1,000 come back in my account. Someone bought a program for me. So it was like the universe was like, oh yeah, here you go. Like the more that you use it, the more that you're free with it, the more it'll come to you. But you've got to get free with it to the point that you don't fear that it's never coming back to you. I right now, for the rest of my life, know I will always be supported by money. And I believe that's the masculine energy that I worked on. I know that I'll always have it. It'll always be around me. It's just a matter of me opening up, like, come to mama a little more. But I know it will be all around me. I never have this anxiety or anxiousness about it going away. And that to me is the highest level of wealth consciousness someone can get around wealth.
Oh yeah, no, and I love it. And I think it's just one of those things where like we have these patterns. We're like unconscious human beings for most of our days. It's becoming aware of these little moments and then having that conversation with yourself. Like you said, getting curious, saying like, where is this coming from? Is this serving me? Is this the truth? And am I allowed to have a different truth? And then like live from that space instead of the space before. But you slowly become aware of these things and you keep up leveling your life because of those moments, right? Like there's so much trained into us. So the quantum woman that you are helping create and unleash in this world, what is one of the first shifts that someone needs to make to move from being afraid of their desires to owning them unapologetically?
Well, the first thing is to what do you want? Like, I think this is like a big question. When I have a woman start working with me, when she ask her what her desires are, sometimes they're sitting there going, I don't know. Like they'll list off the beach house. They'll go, I want a beach house. I want this. I'm like, but what do you really want? And that's so disconnected to her. So in the beginning, and then she's, she'll list a couple things that she thinks she's supposed to have to say that she's successful. But by the time she's done with me, she's like, oh, I want this, I want this. And you can tell her emotions. I can't wait to feel the breeze of the ocean on my, my beach house. Like you can see she's connected to because everything that we want, it's how is it going to make us feel when we have it? That's like the bottom. I don't make that up. Like that's something that's been around for a long time. It's the having of the thing. How is it going to make you feel? Right. So first things first is when you're making that desired list, connect to those emotions, because how is it going to make you feel to have those things? I know for my G-Wagon now, because I have the Be-Do have, it's going to make me feel wealthy. I'm going to love it. I love driving it. Today it was snowing. I had to drive my son's car and I have more appreciation for my car now, but it's like, how am I going to feel? So what is it? And then when you're creating that list, really get into that emotion, because when you tap into that emotion, your desire is going to come to you way faster than if it was just a goal oriented thing. That's how you collapse time with the universe. And Quantum Leap is emotionally connecting to the results that you want to create in your life and acting as if you have them now as well, like living in that feeling.
Yeah, living in the feeling of what you desire as if you already own it. I love it.
That's what I did.
Okay, so how do people be a part of your world? Join into your courses, your retreats, like all the things.
The first things first, you can come send us a message at support@shaminataylor.com. I would definitely go get the book on, Unlocking the Quantum Woman. This book is it literally change your life. It's doing so well and thousands of women have gone through it. You can come join our Quantum Woman group on Facebook. And we've got I know though, Jenn, you're going to give away a daily money moves that we have that I think you guys should start practicing. And if you want to come in our world, we have a program called the Millionaire Club. And I walk you through the emotional mastery. I take you through the masculine and feminine. I also take you through the scarcity and abundance mindset. Like I've got women who make 8 figures that don't realize that they still live a scarcity mindset, because we didn't touch on it, as much today, but I do believe we have 3 core wounds, like abandonment, betrayal, and unworthiness. And for a lot of highly successful women, they are living that right now, and it's showing up in their bank accounts and their business. So while they can make money, all of a sudden the money is going boop, boop, and it's going out another way. So it's like, how can we increase the wealth and compound it and also work less and make more? Like that's really what it's all about. So you can go enjoy, your kids and do all the things that you want to do, because we don't need to suffer anymore. We need to just enjoy life and have a good time. So that's where I would have you come into one of our, programs, and go check out my podcast. It's called Unapologetically Rich. The reason why I created this is because I didn't feel like I had to justify why I wanted something. And I think a lot of women desire to have more than what they have right now, but they feel they have to explain themselves or justify red bottom shoes. Well, they were cute, or they were on sale, or they were this, or they were that. Oh my gosh, look at this. Instead of just saying, I just get to have it just because. And I feel like you just get to have those raspberries just because, And honestly, the thing that was missing on that yoga mat, the thing that was missing inside of me, which a lot of highly successful women feel like there's something missing, I have it now. It was unfulfilled, and I have that now by allowing my desires to be met, by allowing myself to be in my bigness and in this type of empowerment that I am right now. And I want all women to feel fulfilled. And you don't need to acquire and do more for that. You just need to become more.
Woo! Line drop at the end. Thank you, Shamina. This has been an excellent episode. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Jenn.
My pleasure.